catcher hanging in the window of a minivan parked along the water's edge. I'd say that I was all alone. I'd say that I was all alone. I'd say that I was all alone. But I will never be born as the scorpion. You're okay, come on and find your legs and find your man. Everybody gotta be reborn, but never be born as the scorpion.
Whoa! Wolf Parade, Cloud Shadow on a Mountain. I really picked it for its title, and because I love me some Wolf Parade. I really love almost anything that Spencer Krug, I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyone does, holler at me. Anything he gets up to musically, I'm usually quite a large fan of. Today, my meditation was delightful, and I'm going to try to become terser in these things, because, again, they've pretty consistently been like 10 minutes, and I know it's a lot of time to demand of you, online or anywhere. 1 Corinthians 13:12, though, and it is so delicious. I really love me some Corinthians. The letter, anyway. I don't really know anybody specifically from Corinth. Or maybe I do. Hey, if you're a friend of mine and you're from Corinth, let me know. Maybe I love you. Well, I'm called to love you regardless, whether you're my friend or my enemy. So, I love you. I don't know why I had to say it so aggressively, but I did. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. I'll read that again, because it's a little complicated language. For now we see through a glass, comma, darkly, semicolon, but then face to face, colon. Now I know in part, semicolon, but then shall I know even as also I am known. Full stop. AKA period. This is something I'm constantly talking about on here, and I just want to fully wrangle with, I guess, continuously, probably till I stop seeing darkly, until I see face to face. And indeed, what I truly believe Paul is talking about here, it's funny, the devotion portion of my devotion today kind of went into how about suffering and how we see, when we do suffer, especially in the name of God, when we are following God, we are fulfilling our genuine purpose as human beings. What we were created to be was in surrender, was to surrender to God. And every other aspect of our life we try to control, and it creates discord, and we look around and we notice, hey, wow, isn't that quite true? But in walking so, we still notice that you do not cease to suffer. And it spoke of how in that suffering we simply do not see it all yet. And I know it sounds like one of those things grown-ups tell you, like, you'll understand when you're older. But let's be honest, how many of those things are already true? I don't know how old you are now, but even from when you first were told that, and you're like, that's BS. And then you get older enough, and you're like, oh, yeah, all right, you're already right about this one. But this other one, you're so wrong. And then we'll probably get to a point and be like, dang it, you were right about that. Not that human beings are right about everything, but anyhow, it's funny because that's not what my mind is drawn to, although if that is an exhortation to you, please take it as such, that even now, in relationship to God, one of the grandest privileges I find, is in finding your true purpose, then the purpose of all other things falls into place. And therefore, your suffering for righteousness, for ultimate truth, capital T, is never in vain. You can be redoubt with doubt. Does that even make sense? As to whether suffering for your own machinations can be good or bad, and indeed it could probably swing both ways depending on what you're up to. But nonetheless, that is even all a sidetrack, so much for being brevity is the soul of wit and whatnot. What this drew my mind to was just this whole wanting to impress upon all that all that we see in this world is but a glimmer, is but a cloud shadow on the mountain of truth of what life is, of what this life is. And indeed, Paul even is like, I have seen the light. I have been literally blinded by the light. Wrapped up like a deuce. Even in seeing, as he has now seen against his will, but has come to see, is but a dark image of that which is the full knowledge and fulfillment of what is going on. And I can completely relate to that. As all were, I was called to Christ against my will, because indeed it's quite contrary to who we are as human beings, which I actually think is quite the signpost to explain the need for such. And having been transformed suddenly and then also continually by that, I have no choice but to speak the name of Yeshua as Messiah, and to know that indeed all that I do know and all that I have experienced of God has always felt like the tip of an iceberg. You know what I mean? Any of you who have experienced moments with God, and not just spirit, because there are spirits of all manner whirling around this world of ours, but actual divinity, actual God. Every time I felt a whisper of His embrace, of His love, of His energy, of His activation. There you go, activation. Why complicate the word, Brendan? It is felt as such. But indeed, we are to be yearning to understand it more and more, to get to understand more and more of the iceberg. And some of that can come through literal exploration of this world. But I think the most important part of it comes from, quite simply, the depth of surrender. Seeing quite clearly, etched on our behavior, of us running this world, is a broken thing. And I think any honest examination of oneself will find yourself a broken thing, in need of fulfillment, and indeed how we clamor for fulfillment everywhere else. And then indeed finding ourselves to fall short of even not only our own designs and goals for ourselves, but the divine plan, which in some ways can be even less harsh than our own designs. But that we have all fallen short of the glory of God. We have fallen short of perfection. And that spending all our time trying to muscle it is, I think, to slow the process. Because, again, we're just trying to control and control and control. Christ came to speak all manner of good behavior, and also came to speak the truth of abject surrender. Of surrender not only of the spirit in an all or nothing fashion, but surrender even of the flesh. And in every moment of that, I feel like that seeing through the glass gets slightly clearer. Slightly clearer. Now we still see in a broken world with broken eyes and broken hearts. But I've seen tips of those icebergs, ladies and germs. And I've seen moments of abject illumination, even just of myself. And again, I've often said that that's the most powerful part and parcel of conversion, of being touched by God and called by God, is illumination. Of being filled with light is a monstrously beautiful experience, but it's also monstrous in that you also see how far and how not that light you are in and of yourself, and all that you had counted as glimmering jewels are still just pieces of coal waiting to be pressed by the fist of suffering into glittering diamonds capable of reflecting and refracting the light of God in every direction. So today, I just pray for mercy and illumination upon your souls. May the God of mercy, may Yah, God of mercy, spread His light upon you and show you even just that glimpse of through a dark glass of who He is and who you are. How much you are loved and how much He is needed. All in all, peace be unto you. Amen and Selah.